Afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining for another session of FGS TV. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed last week. Had some really good feedback, so we're quite pleased. And I'm sure some people who didn't give feedback probably didn't enjoy it. But there we are. It's not for everybody. So today I've got three esteemed panelist guests, and actually all that I've known for quite a long time. So Lewis Simmonds, who you might see him at the bottom, but I do there. Not in life, but in the bottom of the screen. He's the UK channel sales leader for HPE. So right at the top on the HPE side within the UK, Ireland, Middle East, looks after all the channel business, which I believe is about 80% of their business. So really done well, and enjoy the company of him. We've got Richard Lewin, head of IT operations at Thomas Miller, who are they're a global insurance company, headquartered in London, but they're Singapore, they're in America, and you can name a few in a while, Richard, if you wish. And Philip Curmi, who's head of service management at GIG, Gaming Innovation Group, who are based out of Malta, as is Philip. And if you wonder why there's somebody from Malta, most of you will know that we're not only in the UK, but we're in Malta. We've got offices in Malta, and so I'm afraid I can't go there at the moment because they don't let people from virus-ridden UK in, which is sort of understandable, because they're trying to keep COVID out of Malta. Now, really today, the thing I want to touch upon and listen to what people have got to say is, now we're all in IT, and so how's it affected us as individuals, us as companies? And IT is different now. We're not the same as we were in February. Things are different. Security is now on the edge. We're all working on the edge. We're not in the centre of it now. And but I'm going to throw a few questions in, ask the panel what they think and how they've taken it. And we do realise if we come across upbeat here, we're not being callous or we're not being unempathetic, if that's the word. We know a lot of people have died, a lot of financial hardship, etc. But for me, and I just want to see what people's views are before we go to the IT side. I actually see it. Well, my uncle died last week of it. Yeah, my dad's brother, twin brother. So very, very close for home for me. But still, I generally see this as a positive thing. In the business side, in IT, I see it's positive. People will think in a better manner, more crisp manner. They'll be looking at costs a lot more to do things in a more structured way. But also, environmentally, I see it as a massive boost for the world. Hopefully, unless when we get out of it, we all forget. I mean, how do you see this, Richard? How do you see it? Is it positive, negative? How have you got on with it?
For me, personally, very positive. I'm enjoying working from home. I've been working at home now since 17th of March when we all decamped the office in 90 Fenchurch Street. My work-life balance is definitely better. I have my breakfast out in the garden. I have my lunch in the garden when the weather's all right. Maybe not today. My team feel similarly actually as well. So for me, I think it's a positive. I'm fortunate I haven't actually come across anybody particularly close to me that's actually fallen foul of the virus. So that's a lucky one, I suppose. And I guess at the end of the day, it's a reset of lots of things, both in IT world, business world, and in life. And I think for me, I'm all ready to embrace it.
Yeah, nice to see you. But Lewis, chuck it out, mate. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I was a week earlier than you, Richard, actually, because I returned actually from skiing, a weekend with skiing with some friends, and we went into lockdown pretty quickly with inside HPE. So I think I've grown a beard, Pete. You've never seen me with a beard, really. So it was always clean shaven and a suit. So adopting this work from home lifestyle, which I think we've had in IT, in various carnations over the years, right? And I think we're quite lucky actually in IT because, we've got the setups there. A lot of customers haven't got the setups that we all have. So we you know, I think we at HPE have embraced it as much as we can do, and obviously conscious, as you mentioned, Pete, that you know this is a life-changing event in which we'll never probably see again. I hope not. So I think, you know, we had to do a lot of things really as a company, and we'll go into that. But I think, yeah, I've got out there. I've done a bit of running and work-life balance. I'm not sure on that one. I think we're all working slightly longer as we're getting up early.
Yeah.
And the biggest challenge for me is that thinking time. And I've mentioned it before on other calls, Pete, you've probably heard that, is that ability to travel, but have a lot of time between those meetings to think. What we're doing now is going from one call to the next call without any of that breaking in time there. So I think that's my challenge, my personal challenge, is to get a little bit of time back between meetings to really think through things and do some of the actions as well.
I mean, I would say, I get up in the morning, have a shower, have breakfast, and think, oh, it's 7:45. What do I do? Well, I go to work. Yeah. And then I'll carry on, then suddenly realise it's 6 o'clock and you've not had a break. You've been on call after call after call. Very productive, but you don't get a break. So I do force myself to get on the bike, and I force myself to take the kids, you know, pick the kids up to school, do things. Otherwise, I could just work.
Yeah.
And then you broil yourself. So you're in Malta, who have done it slightly differently, haven't they? We locked down, and then we locked down ever so late, and you locked down in Malta before lockdown, really, because people weren't. They shut the schools down in Malta, but by the time they shut the schools down, nobody was going to school. The parents had taken them out, hadn't they, Philip?
Yes, very much so. I think all in all, it has been a positive in the sense that, first of all, from our point of view, from a GIG's point of view, we're quite quick in the sense that we moved the workforce to work from home. It has been a testing times for all of us, I would say. And but as we all know, every sort of change comes with opportunities as well. So from my end, for example, I've been working from home for the last 3 months. Now we started moving back to the office. And I would say that one of the most important or interesting aspects of it all is that in this case, it's like the employer pushing the employee to work from home because there was no other option, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But I would say that overall it has been a positive experience. We've learned a lot from it. And I think we're now seeing some different things from different aspects as well. But from a Malta point of view, I would say, yes, we were quite quick. We closed schools overall, but I think up till now it looks promising, I would say.
It does. With only, I think, 7 or 8 or 9 deaths on the island. I know you're a lot smaller, but you're only 100 times smaller than the whole of the UK. So that would mean 700 deaths in the UK, and we're pushing 50,000. So you've done something right. But you're an island, which I believe probably the UK is actually. So last time I looked.
Last time I looked.
Yeah, last time I looked. Yeah. So jumping on IT. Now there's 2 trains of thought that I'm hearing. IT jobs, and you know, it's going to be great for IT because everything's now going to be remote. It's all going to be driven from IT. IT becomes even more important. BI becomes even more important. Analytics become more important. So great. And so they're saying, oh, you'll be more sought after as an IT. We call ourselves in the IT industry, though. You're in iGaming or platform. You're in the supplier side, manufacturer side, and we should join insurance. And we're a partner, obviously. There will be plenty of IT people out there who are going to lose their jobs, though. So will that neutralise it? So if you're working in a factory that shuts down, and you're the IT infrastructure side, you're shutting down. If you're one of half of the people who are losing their jobs at British Airways or at Virgin, their jobs would be. So will it be good for the IT industry for people like us who work within it, or do you think it would just be neutral, or even would it reduce? You know, will there be too many people sloshing around? What do you think, Lewis? Because you're actually in the industry itself, like I am. You're on mute as well, which never helps. So some people say it does. Some people say it does help.
It might do, muting me. So I think, yeah, we've known each other a long time, right? And we go back to those days where some people in the IT industry were getting quite a lot of money for, you know, changing backup tapes, right? and it's a good thing to look back on, right? So we thought, well, what happens to those people when backup becomes automated? What happens when AI and automation kicks in? And I think more and more, we've got to do more with less, I think. But the jobs will sort of change. The IT industry is running at such a pace at the moment, and computing at the edge. We've got a multi-cloud environment as well, on-prem, off-prem. Obviously there's different ways of consuming IT, right? And we know that. And I think there's going to be some challenges, definitely. But we're seeing that in industries anyway, outside of IT, aren't we? People that have lost their jobs in certain sectors that haven't come back as fast as other sectors have had to adapt and, take a different role. And I think that, some sectors are coming back faster. Some countries are coming back faster, as we know. And again, for us, we're a global company, and we've got to make sure that we also adapt, and we've got to make sure for ourselves and for our customers and partners as well, is that the workforce that we've got can really adapt and change through this. So I see a lot of change happening in there. I also see that some good will come out of it, and maybe technologies will be adopted faster. Then you take video conferencing at this moment in time, how quickly that's gone. And if you had shares in Zoom, and people have probably mentioned that, you might have made a bit of money. But I think consumption models, and we can go on to that a bit later on, but I think different ways of adopting technology and taking technology, and this has accelerated it.
Yeah. So when you're talking consumption models, you're talking about pay-per use, but on-prem.
Yeah. On-prem, okay. Yeah, and if you take some of those industries, Pete, one thing on those industries, some of those industries, like the online industry, gaming slightly different, but retail, online retail, you see, the supermarkets, if they had the ability to flex up when they were seeing people online placing orders for shopping that way, because people couldn't go into the physical stores, if a lot of those companies, they would have been able to cope pretty quickly. Yeah. Or flex down on the other side, Pete. If people don't have the usage, you could flex down your consumption.
Yeah, on-prem's obviously, we'll go into that later. So, Richard, how do you see it changing in general for the industry? So, bring up anything you want, really. How you see it within the organisation, or just in general?
I think within our organisation, a lot of what we deal with is not the supply chain. So lots of the shipping that we are insurers of is transiting the goods around the world. Now, what COVID's done to that, it's stopped. Initially, goods couldn't be shipped into a particular country, then that country would come back online. From the perspective, HPE, their manufacturing side was hit probably quite significantly. And so we're seeing from both sides. So there was a reduction in shipping movement.
Richard, you're cracking up a little bit, actually.
Really?
You're getting a little bit fuzzy.
Probably need to get you an instant on, Richard, Aruba product in there for you. We might be able to help you there.
Yeah. So the ships. So what happened to these ships? Just out of interest, did they just hang around the sea until they could?
They'll be probably laid up in port, but they're still insured. So as the demand for the amount of goods shipping around the world fluctuates, because of demand on one side and supply on the other. Yeah, we see it with recession brings that usually into that type of industry as well.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of people coming in, having available in the industry. So we talk about recruitment here. We're looking at people because there's so many companies in the UK who've just furloughed people. Just furloughed them in salespeople as well, which I find it unbelievable in our industry. And now a lot of these companies are saying, "Yeah, you're coming back in the office." These people think, "I don't want to go back in the office. I'm quite happy working 1 day, 2 days a week in the office, but I don't want to come in full time." So some severe talent is up for grabs, which we've never seen before in IT, where they're thinking, "I don't want to go up to London every day. I don't want to go on a tube train every day. So I want to go and live in York or something and come down maybe every 2 or 3 weeks. I'm happy with that. Get up early." So there's a lot of talent that's rushing around thinking, and I can see it becoming very transient in the next 3-4 months, where they're forcing people to go back to work. Because you're back at work, Philip, and quite a lot of people I've spoken to in Malta are back at work. Now, London, I've been going up, say, once every 2 weeks, just in the office. Someone's got to water the plant. Yeah, singular, not plural yet. Someone's got to water the plant. And I got there, it hasn't changed a lot. Still only one person on the carriage. So, but Malta's going more back into the office.
Yes, first of all, I would say this the way I see it is depends on the business sector and the industry. For example, in the gaming industry, it has been, I wouldn't say business as usual, but very close to. For us, for example, it has been like a seamless transition. Like we were first working from the office, the next day we got communication out saying that people need to work from home, basically. So we kept the same processes, production processes, etc. And so we didn't see so much change, but we all agree that this depends on the respective sector that one is working on. We all know that there were some industries that were heavily impacted as a result of COVID-19. And I think the emphasis here has to be specifically on two main areas, like business continuity. So now there is much more awareness on business continuity, and also on supply and capacity management. So I think these are two main areas that companies basically have to focus more moving forward. And if they weren't doing this in the past, now they have no other option. Yeah. So it's protecting your future by planning in advance. And it's basically adopting more of a proactive approach than a reactive approach as well.
Right, okay. No, it's good. I think it's going to be really interesting as it goes on, because when it first happened, I was thinking, oh my word, everything's going to fall off a cliff. And it did for the first couple of weeks. Everyone was working from home. Yeah, we sold lots of laptops, which we hadn't done for quite a while. But that's really moved on, that area, and everything's on the edge. So we had a boost then, but for us, we've been so lucky because we're dealing mainly in the iGaming industry, banking, insurance. Yeah, well, they're three industries that haven't been hit particularly at the moment, and we're not talking big retail banks, we're talking investment banks. So we've been really fortuitous. I mean, HPE obviously have had the issue, but all manufacturers had. When there's orders that we had in February that weren't being delivered till 2 weeks ago. But so what's happened with the supply chain now?
Yeah, it's probably
why was the supply chain so difficult for IT to manage?
It's a $100 million question, Pete, isn't it?
Yeah,
you're throwing at me there.
So you're the man, Lewis. You're the man who knows the answers. Yeah.
It's not It's $150 billion question. So 1.5 billion, should I say? So I think for us, even pre-COVID, right, there were supply shortages. There was componentry shortages out there, whether it be NAND memory, whether it be CPUs. So I think it just exacerbated with what happened with COVID. So what we saw is, and you mentioned, Richard, about ships not moving. Similar with planes, right? A lot of our equipment, where it's manufactured out in the Far East, or whether it's in Mexico or it's in the US, lots of areas shut down at different points of time, right? So there was never a common theme here of everything shutting down at once. So it depends on where your product was manufactured. For us in the EMEA regions, a lot of our stuff is obviously done in Czech, lots is done in the US. But we saw, 3 levels actually, and our CEO Antonio really took this to task to reduce our backlog. And that was his 1, 2, and 3 priorities that he had. And what we see, we put that into 3 areas. Firstly, chips, NAND, as I said, CPU shortages out there. But then you get to some of the physical stuff, the stuff that is only really made in places like China. So this is like cables, that sort of componentry. When they went down, and there was nobody in those factories. And this is people's lives, right? So you can't just bring them back in. They've shut down. So that was just
Amazon delivery. Sorry, guys, carry on.
You've got Amazon going on.
Yeah, it's the way it's the new normal. Yeah,
more people are getting there, aren't they? So componentry, cables, and all that sort of stuff, physical stuff, wasn't being manufactured. And then the third element, as I mentioned, is you can't fly this stuff around because the transportation systems are not there, and the airspaces are shut down, the ports. So I think slowly but surely things are coming back. We've actually, I think, cleared about half of our backlog that we went into this quarter with. So you're starting to see some of your orders, Philip, hopefully have now shipped, and we're getting where we said we would be. But we're not the only vendor that's suffered from it, right? So and again, go back to the start of it, Pete. Last year, I think there was a major shortage in PC componentry for laptops. And you wouldn't have known, right? Because you're not really in that marketplace at the time. So, it swung back at the start of COVID to server componentry. So that's where it sort of stems from. But I think, yeah, getting back to it, making sure we've got resiliency as well in our supply chain. I think that's probably woken up a lot of vendors out there to make sure there's different resiliency. And there's, for example, we have so many different SKUs. We don't need all these SKUs. We can rationalize our SKUs. And that's one of the things that we'll take into from now on, actually, around our SKU rationalization. And then single point of failures for componentry, making sure there's none of that available. So one resistor doesn't take down a whole line or whatever of server manufacturer. Or in fact, it's not even that. It goes into another component that goes into another component that is the component that we tell you that's short.
So, no, cheers for that. It's really interesting because we've had a lot of delays, but we have noticed things are coming through a lot quicker now. Can't go and get. The problem is we get clients say to us, "When can you get it by?" And I say, "You're going to get it when you get it." And they say, "Well, you've got to give us a date." I said, "I can't." And I said, "If somebody gives you a date, they're either going through the broker channel, the grey market, or they're lying to you. Because until you actually put the order on, which takes about 2 days after you get an order, HP aren't going to allocate that stock, or and so that could go elsewhere. So we lose a lot of business because we say we can't promise. They say, well, such and such a promise said 3 weeks. 5 weeks later, you speak to them, hasn't turned up. So I told you, and it caused an issue with us.
Yeah.
Because we're saying to clients, and we're just being honest, that it's a difficult situation. Then clients jump around, you're our supplier, and it's a tough one because we are their supplier. And then you have to say, well, I'm afraid it's worldwide, and it doesn't really work, but it's the way it's been. So
and we haven't had it, for like this for let's think about when we had anytime we ever get shortages is if there's a major componentry issue or there's a fire, you name it, right? That's the sort of thing.
The earthquake in Japan had an impact.
That had an impact. That's probably last. And one thing we also looked at is actually prioritizing COVID related critical supply, right? So that was #1 priority, that we could make sure that maybe not for your industries but for other customers.
What you didn't think online gambling was a priority? I can't believe it. What's life coming?
I didn't think anybody.
It was a priority for us.
There was no sport going on, so it was definitely the online bit, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. A quick one. So I know I'm jumping to the end, but it's not the end at all. I'm really interested because we've now just opened our pubs, Philip. Yeah. Now your pubs and bars have been open for a while now. Are many people going? Are many people going to them? Is it exactly the same? So if you go down to the Casino or whatever down at St Julian's, is everyone sitting next to each other like they were before, or have they got all these plastic sheets up and everything like this? How does it work in Malta? Because I've not been allowed back. I used to be there every 3 weeks. Can't come back at the moment because I'm not allowed. Which rightly so.
I wouldn't say that we're back to normal 100%. But things are getting there. So pubs and different areas of the market are basically opening up. There are still some restrictions, like distance, for example, use of masks, visors, etc.
Do you have that mandatory?
Now we are using a little bit off. So masks are no longer compulsory in some areas. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously you find different, I wouldn't say interpretations, but it depends on the risk appetite of the establishments or the organizations. So you'll find some of them who'll go an extra step, some others who go a step back, so to speak. But on the positive side, things are getting back to normal. So
and on the positive side, you get 100. Another positive side, you get €100 voucher from the government to spend in the bars, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not only in bars, but let's say it's an added plus of having some extra cash, so to speak, to make sure that the economy goes back to normal ASAP.
Yeah. So Richard, are you going to go down? You're going to walk down to whatever the local pub at Chelmer Village is?
I try to avoid that actually.
Well, even when you're allowed to, I suppose.
Yeah, they don't tend to like me in there for some reason. Last time I went in, they even servers.
Fair enough. It wasn't 9 o'clock in the morning when they were doing deliveries, was it?
It was late in the afternoon after we've been watching the rugby, and piled in there and asked for shots, and I didn't like this.
I didn't like it. Fair enough. The family place, is that the Raven or something, isn't it?
Yeah, the Fox and Raven. Yeah.
Fox and Raven, yeah. So Lewis, are you going to be piling down have you been to the pub yet?
No, I've not been yet. No. I'm on a health kick, Pete. I'm on a health kick. I'm debating whether I'm going to get through any of this wine. No, I'm not going to go. I might go tomorrow. Let's see how the weekend goes. But it's a bit like getting your hair cut. I'm not really wanting to go to the hairdressers yet, because they're there with their masks and stuff on, and it feels a bit weird, doesn't it? I'm not sure. I don't want to go
to a restaurant and be served by someone with a mask. It just wouldn't feel like a dining experience. But you might need to go, because you're trying to look like a little bit like Harold Shipman now. Yeah,
I'll change the glasses in a minute.
Yeah, I'll change the glasses.
I can't work this one out for you. If you give me those looks.
Going back to more sensible conversations, security, because a lot of people take a lot of notes of security, but security is always central. And people come in the office, they've got their PCs. A lot of companies don't do bring your own device. And information security, for me, a lot of it was you're printing stuff off, who can see it. You've got no control of that at home now. No control. Especially the printing, you can leave it there, chuck out in the dustbin. There's all personal information going on there. Really difficult to control. So, Richard, how are you finding the security side? Because you went from being everyone in the office to nobody in the office. And so that's a big change from the edge, central to the edge.
It was massive. And one of the first things we relaxed when we all started to work from home was the actual home printing. So we actually didn't allow home printing.
Yeah.
So that stopped. Technology prevented it. But of course, whenever he decamped and was suddenly working from home, we started to get quite a few requests into our central service desk for, we need to print this, we need to be able to read this document offline and annotate it, etc., etc., which in the office would have been just normal day-to-day work, and then in the shredder and finished. So we had to relax the home printing, and so now people can actually print at home on the home printers, and you do lose that amount of control. So you don't really know what happens to that document beyond that.
Yeah.
You're just relying on people's personal security awareness to make sure that they do securely dispose of it when they're finished with it. And the other thing we did, we relaxed our password policy as well, because service desks were being inundated with people which is probably normal in most IT organisations, is people forget their passwords very, very frequently, and we've got multiple systems with different passwords. And as soon as people were working from home, for some reason the passwords are even harder for them. So policy. That's now been brought back in. And
so now everyone's password is now password, yeah?
Yeah, they've all set it up.
Excellent, yeah.
And compliance and risk have been sort of across the piece as well, checking various other areas that they think we should tighten up on, and other areas that we can possibly relax a little bit on. But it's a big change, definitely a big, very big change for us. But we were fortunate. We switched almost seamlessly from 100% in the office to 100% at home across the globe.
Yeah.
Did quite a lot of work from my team standing up additional infrastructure, which sort of goes back to Philip's thing about capacity management now is incredibly important, because if you're not on top of it and something like this happens, then you've got no chance. And so we were fortunate.
Yeah. So what about yourself, Philip, on the security side of things? Because it is a total change, isn't it?
Change, and the change happened quite fast, so it didn't give many people the room of opportunity to plan it properly. From our end, I would say that first of all, we, as a gaming organization, we don't rely heavily on printing. But as you're saying, now the shift basically goes to security at the end point. What I also would like to add to some extent is that now the shift is also on the corporate side as well. So we are assessing tools, assets specifically more from a security point of view as well. So the assessment process has to change, specifically because the things are now being used not only from the office, but also from home. Apart from that, I would say that there is more dependency on VPN connections, for example. So everything is passing through one channel. So that's basically also a single point of failure to some extent. I think we still need to give it a bit more time to assess the ramifications and implications of the new norm, so to speak. Up till now, it has been like, I would say, business as usual. So nothing unexpected. But obviously, we need more time to assess the full ecosystem, so to speak, as well.
So has it changed your role much at all? Has your role changed, service management side?
Not much from my end. So basically, I have teams in both in Malta and Marbella. Most of the people basically work from home.
There's worse places to have teams, Philip.
Sorry?
There's worse places to have teams, Marbella and Malta. Yeah.
So most of our people are working from home 24/7. We still use the same tools we used to use before.
Yeah.
So it's been sincerely almost business as usual. So I would believe that the main issue is more on the personal side, like waking up in the morning, going to work in another room, and then go back to sleep later on within the same day. So
yeah, the people you've got to have sympathy for is people who are having affairs. Yeah. Yeah, if you're having an affair and you're locked at home with your husband or your wife, what a shocking situation. So maybe that's not where my sympathy should be going. God, that would have been a shock, wouldn't it? But anyway, that's I'll move swiftly on from that.
Peter, I'll probably add though around, I think around that policy management and, I think cloud automation with, I don't know if you've seen, I'll put it in the chat actually in a minute, Aruba Central. That really helps around that security. It's a cloud managed operating system, campus branch, but it allows you to do that policy management to reduce the risks. So I think it's worth having a look at.
Is that with ClearPass?
Part ClearPass. Yeah. So Aruba Central was like the single pane of glass approach. Yeah. So I think worth having a little look on that. So that may be something that for your customers, for the guys and girls on the
call. So what are the main changes that HPE have done? Because they've for companies so big and old, they seem to have really moved on.
So
the message is coming out. Yeah.
Well, again, we're not that big now compared to where we were, pre-split with the old HPI or HP.
But you had software.
Yeah,
which you haven't got now, the Micro Focus, and you also had laptops, desktops, and printers.
Yeah.
So you're really an infrastructure firm now.
Yeah, infrastructure, and we launched a new brand of software, a new software brand at HP Discover, and hopefully some of the audience have managed to get a look at HP Discover. It was our largest virtual event, happened week before last. So lots of announcements in there and some really good stuff around containerization platforms with regards to with our new software platform. So I'll send that out to you guys as well. But for us, I think the challenge for us is obviously budgets out there. What we wanted to really do at the start of this was to make sure that we had funding out there, and we went away and we secured a roughly about 2 billion investment to help fund in budgets for customers. And whether that was around things like a payment relief program for our partners, and also customers, but some financial services packages that we put together. And there was deferred payment terms because we wanted to keep the liquidity going in the system, right? So some customers' budgets have been taken away, but what could we do to help that going, especially to invest in the technology that they need to get them through, but also what the new normal, which I hate the phrase by the way, what that's going to look like. So
you hate the phrase. Dominic Raab invented that. That's what he'll be known for.
That's him, is it? That at least it wasn't the one with a castle trip. So things like extended payment terms around customers and trying to make sure that we could keep that liquidity in there. There's a lot of goodness that we did, and we acted really quickly with that. I think we were probably the first vendor out there to come out with those financial measures that, not, again, right, those measures, not everybody's taken them up, but that they're there to be able to be utilized for customers and for partners, I think was the intent. And we've had some really good success with companies that have taken some of those measures and deployed them. But again, some of the stuff for Force for Good, Pete, which I think we did really well. We did some work around, I think there was about 15 or 16 trusts utilized, some of our free equipment on Aruba to set up field hospitals, right? We were involved with an SI organization around Nightingale Hospital, around setting up the network in there. So the best one I had was a field ship. I was in the US actually, which was turned into a hospital, and we put Aruba equipment on that hospital, that floating hospital in the US. So, some Force for Good stuff that I think, really set us apart from, of not other companies, but I've really set us apart in this industry.
So takeaway, guys. What's the biggest change going to be for in IT and for you personally? We go with you, Richard. What do you see? I know I didn't give these guys any questions beforehand, so I'm just throwing them at them. Yeah. So we're like Sky TV here. So the biggest change in work, and if it's for you personally, that's fine. Whatever you want to answer.
I think the biggest change for us in work, I mean, we have a central London head office. I don't see us ever returning to it in the same way that we were before this. We'd spent quite a lot of time trying to condense our footprint in that building, and then this happens, and now we have to be socially distant from each other. So all that work of making sure more people could fit into a smaller space has gone out the window. So I don't see us ever returning to full population in the building, not for the very foreseeable future anyway.
Yeah.
And I think it's proved from an IT perspective that we can actually do this from home and work from home. And it's not just the IT people that can do it. All our claims handlers are doing it. Our underwriters are doing it. The whole business is working from home. So fortunately for me, the reputation from my side has actually gone up. So IT's reputation has done very well in this scenario. And personally, I don't see myself going back to the office full time either.
No. Well, I can't see myself going. Thanks for that, Richard. I can't see myself going back to the office. I think if I'm there 2 days a week, it's because a little bit of team going on, but I can't see my staff going back in. A lot, most of my staff come out from Essex, spend probably £4,000, and that's net a year to travel to the office. Well, for some people, for nearly everybody, I'd say that's a lot of money. Well, if they haven't got to spend that money coming to the office and only going once or twice a week, and they've been incredibly productive, productivity's gone up through the roof in the business.
Yeah.
But actually a lot more communication, because we're having meetings every day. As in 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock is sacrosanct. We have meetings. We're chatting. We might be chatting about whether on the weekend we chat, and we talk about work. Of course we are, but it's really, really helped. So I can see people in the office coming in. Some people might enjoy it. If I was 21, had a bit of cash, I'd like to work in the city. Want to go out in the evenings. If I was sitting at home with my mum, not quite as interesting, is it? So that's so that would be a shame. But what about yourself, Philip? You'll be back in full time soon? What's the big changes anyway? Big life changes and big work changes.
So basically, from our end, Vic has always been like in the forefront of promoting flexibility for the employees, a good work-life balance. We've also seen that the productivity has also gone up from both sides. So from an employee point of view and also from an employer point of view. And moving forward, the company has adopted a hybrid approach. So the employee can work either from home or the office as he deems fit. I would say one of the main positives of this sort of pandemic is that we have more reach on the talent side. So now there's no restrictions on the geographical location. So one needs to look for a certain position or a certain skill set that is required for the business. Now basically you can know that we can reach out further specifically because since we're working from home, we're not stuck to the geographical locations, office or island, etc., like in our case, for example. So that's positive as well. On the other hand, I don't see much more changes. So from my end, I can work both from the office and also from work. So it promotes a good work-life balance and more flexibility as well. So
well, I've been in Malta for 6 years, and the conversation with everybody, I'd say in the UK, talk about weather. In Malta, they talk about the weather and traffic, because the traffic is just horrendous, It's just going to sort the traffic issue out, because if there's so many people working from home, people don't share cars in Malta, and they all drive, even if they've been out for the evening, they'll all drive, Don't take that the wrong way, Philip, but it's absolutely true.
No, you are completely spot on. You are right. And yes, I think from a traffic point of view, things have improved. So it is a big problem here locally. And obviously, since people are now working from home and they're still working from home, and the situation on the traffic side has improved. So, if I can work from home, I don't need to go to the office. So it's a win-win situation for the ones who can work from home and for the ones who have to go back to the office.
No, but hopefully the traffic situation, because it is horrendous. So Maltese are not good at walking. They can physically walk, can't you, Philip? Yeah, but to walk 800 yards is a bit of a push. It's almost I'll drive, and that's a bit sweeping, but it's just an observation. It is very much, and I do say the observation was on there. So, Lewis, big change. You're the last one, and then we're going to wrap this up.
What's the
big change for you? Big change for you. Big change for work.
I'll tell you what. I think as a salesperson, we're social animals, aren't we? So, not being in front of people, other than the screen, and seeing your lovely face, Pete, in your lovely office, I think that's hard to accept, and I get the benefits from working from home, but I probably think in my career, I reckon in all the years, if I worked from home once a month, that was probably enough for me. So I think it's hard to. That's the big change for me, getting used to this and not seeing people physically. I bring the team together like you on all the calls. We make some fun. We do some really good stuff, and everybody gets involved, right? But there's that one point where you think, Jesus, is it getting too much of it all? And so I think that's changed. I think in the workplace, outside of that autonomous data center piece, for me, I think it's got more and more credibility now. The ability to manage that data center remotely using the tools with what we've got with AI. One little stat for you, right? You've probably sold this over your years, Pete. ILO. Advanced, right? It allows you to dial into that server. So, with people not being able to get into those data centers when they've been down, we put an offer together, and it was an offer basically free ILO for the rest of the year till December. And that, again, as a salesperson, I would never have gone out with those sort of things. Free ILO. We used to almost say it's like a freebie, like it's a disc. And that has gone up. The amount of downloads we've had, we're probably over something like 250% downloads than we were before. So little things like that, to be able to get back into that data center and remotely manage it. And that's why I think InfoSight, and that from Nimblebee and on FreePar and Primera, those sort of technologies are really helping us in that autonomous data center world. Yeah,
it made a lot of difference now.
But I do need to get out and go and see some people. I can't cope with this.
I'll tell you what you need,
I'll
Lewis.
go around your house.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. What you need is a trip to Malta.
All right.
You do.
We'll save that one up.
You saved that one up, yeah.
I don't know if I've got the expenses anymore.
It's all right. It's all right. I'll put you up, mate.
Good.
All right, the gents. Well, thank you very much. Really insightful, interesting. It's actually, things are moving on from talking to people last week. Challenges are slightly changing. We're starting to bed in nicely. Things are starting to move differently. And I'm finding it really exciting, really interesting. And now, being able to go to the office every couple of weeks, I'm enjoying the change of scenery. I'm out at Borough Market on Tuesday afternoon, with a couple of clients. We'll be standing up outside, food comes, you know, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's almost, I'm just excited, like going on holiday. It's going to be, and so just hope it's not too packed. But everybody, thanks ever so much. Really do appreciate you joining us. And sorry, Philip, because you're a latecomer and you're joining the wine tasting when it's in Malta in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
You can't join us, but the other two, really appreciate it. I will speak to you in course of an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for those listening.
Thank you very much.
Bye.